If you want to totally transform your running, and if you want to run with ease, fluidity, grace, a sense of joy, and a sense of open-heartedness, then we have 4 awesome tools. My name is Lawrence Van Lingen. I'm a movement specialist who has helped many endurance athletes overcome injuries to performing better than their best. And in today's video, we are going to show 4 powerful tools so that you too can find your joy in running. At the very heart of it, movement should be creative, active self-expression. We see so many people that are reactive or defensive or guarding or restricted in their movement. I believe wholly that movement should start from the center out and should be a creative act whereby you express yourself. So one of the best things you can do to your running is to have your primary drive in running come from hip extension. And that implies that you use your glute max to extend your hip. And so what we really want to see when you're running is as your knee goes underneath your hip, you're straightening your leg. A lot of people end up pulling back with their hamstring and their hamstring fires before their hip. You might be running on your forefoot, which emphasizes calf function. And we really want to sense that the whole foot's on the ground and that we drive the world backwards and extend using our hips. One of the commonest mistakes people make in running is leaning too far forward, and you might have been cued to sort of lean forward from the ankles. But what that does is if your toes slam down, your plantar fascia locks, your midfoot locks, your Achilles tighten, you'll shorten your stride out the back, and we kind of want more length out the back and less movement in front. And so reframing forward lean with forward shift will really help with your running, and is very good for plantar fascia injuries, Achilles injuries, and hamstring injuries. So what I mean by that is if I was to lean forward till my toes go down, that would be a forward lean when I run, and you kind of want to replace it with your head on top of your shoulders on top of your hips, and then shifting forward. And in this position I can still wiggle my toes. And so a great sign of when you're running, you should be able to wiggle your toes in your shoes, and if you can't wiggle your toes in front of your shoes, you're probably leaning too far forward. So another common mistake in running is people use their upper body too much, or even worse, get their upper body fighting their lower body. So from behind it'll look something like this. And again, we really do want some sense of connection and movement to come from your hips, and your lower back should be quiet when you run. And sometimes we get people to put one hand on their belly, one hand on their chest when they run, and it'll immediately connect your upper body to your lower body. And you'll find when you run, you have a sense of rhythm, and it's really important to let your hands be soft and just go along for the ride. We really want to sense that our shoulders are connected to our hips, and we rotate from the hips. And then one last very important and very topical mistake that runners make is a head forward posture. And head forward posture with smartphones, with working on computers, with driving, with cycling, it'll really get you into trouble. So it's very important to try and get your head on top of your shoulders and your shoulders on top of your hips. As soon as your head goes forward, your heels will go forward, and then you'll start driving your leg into the ground. You'll have an excessive heel strike. It's very inefficient and it's going to set you up for injury. So try and get your head on top of your shoulders on top of your hips, and shift forward. If you want to totally transform your running, we can use these 4 very powerful tools. The awesomizer. The awesomizer is a great movement screen. Coaches can use it to screen your athletes for movement deficiencies, and you can use it to really smooth out your running, make it very balanced and symmetrical, and basically problem solve the various components of running. If you want to do it before a run, you generally speaking want to do 2 rounds of the awesomizer, and there's 4 distinct parts to the awesomizer. To perform the awesomizer, you want to find somewhere where you can put your foot up that's between your hand height and your knee height. And you're going to just turn, put your foot up, and then basically it's a system of balance checks. So you rock into your hip, release your hamstring, rock into your hip, release your hamstring. And often if you have a tight hamstring, you'll find that you pushed off center or you lose your balance, and this will smooth it out. The second component of the awesomizer is the same: turn, step, and then we open up and close your hips. This is fantastic if you've been sitting a lot, or if you're cycling, your hips can get really bound down, and it's very good at mobilizing your peroneals, the muscles that control your feet, and start to get a really strong sense of interaction between your foot and your hip. The third part of the awesomizer, again, turn and then step. You're going to rock from your heel off your forefoot. It's very good at rehabbing your Achilles, of softening up your soleus so that your soleus has full range of motion. It softens up your toes, improves your balance, and this is a really vital part of running, is to have this healthy delayed toe off, and just getting your brain mapped that it's very comfortable and competent when you need it most. The fourth part of the awesomizer is your upper body, a 45-degree angle. And what you're going to do is we rock to the one side and we practice getting our head over our foot and add upper body rotation. We do it on both sides. And what that does is it really helps get your head over foot when you're running, which is very, very important for balance, stability. It'll massively improve your endurance when you're running, and also opens up your chest and gets your shoulders off your hips. So the flow rope is a rope that you swing. You don't jump with rope, and you want kind of a heavy rope, so about 16 millimeters in diameter or 5/8 of an inch. And it should be from your hand with the horizontal forearm down to the ground. And that's about the right length of the flow rope. And why we want to use it is because it's very, very good at teaching you to move from the center out. It'll also make your running fluid and symmetrical. And the other thing is we can teach people the exact shape and timing of running. An important concept with the flow rope is we can differentiate between anterior chain, which will be swinging the rope in a downward chopping pattern, and posterior chain, which is swinging the rope in a backward and upward pattern. Some people can find it extraordinarily challenging to swing the flow rope backwards, but you need to have access to that posterior chain. You need to have the duality of anterior chain and posterior chain. And if you can't swing the flow rope backwards, you're going to find your movement is trapped, it's forward, and you kind of paint it into a corner. So it really, really opens up your posture, your movement, your breath, adds fluidity, rhythm, timing, and you move from the center out. It's a fantastic tool. Backwards walking. Okay, backward walking is a hidden gem. It's very, very good for injury prevention, and it also really helps you shift forward when you run. So basically you're going to learn to run better forwards by walking backwards. 2 steps in learning how to do backward walking. The first one is you're just going to take a step backward with soft toes, make sure that your toes are bent, and then you place your heel down. And what that does in your running, it adds an element. A lot of people when they run don't shift forward enough or fall forward on a connected leg. And so what this does is it gives your brain permission to make that shape. And what you'll find when you're running is your efficiency dramatically improves, your heart rate will lower as you start falling forward on a connected leg and rolling off your toes. So if you first want to learn soft toes, heel down, the second component is you need to get your belly button pointing towards the lead leg or the front leg. And so when you step back, this is my front leg, my belly button points through the front leg, and you want to add that movement into your backward walking. And that can be very, very challenging for a lot of people because you're so tight in your hips, and what you'll tend to do is step backwards, which is homolateral gait, or like a grizzly bear. And if you have that in your running, when you step back, you'll compensate by moving your upper body against your lower body. So the second component is very, very vital. Belly button to lead leg, belly button to lead leg. Tire walking. Tire walking is probably the best exercise in the world that is gait specific to strengthen your hips. What that means is that if you pull the tire, you will learn the exact shape and strength and coordination pattern of your hips when you run, and it'll give so much confidence to your running because you'll know exactly what you're supposed to be doing with your hips. And once your hips become dynamic and strong and articulate and your movement starts to come from your hips, your whole body will start to open up. You'll find length and space, your neck, your spine will release. It's a very, very powerful way of reframing your running. If you go to a tire dealership and you tell them that you need a tire and that you're not going to drive with it, they'll give you a tire for free. And then if you go to the hardware store, you just get an eyelet, you drill a hole through the tire, and then attach, this is just a cheap piece of cotton rope to the tire. The length should be about 8 foot. Make a loop, step into it, and then just lasso it around your waist. The mechanism of doing that is you're going to turn and step towards your lead leg, but you have to leave your heel on the ground and relax your foot. And so it's a turn and step, leaving your heel on the ground. And why we leave the heel on the ground is it takes out the influence of your foot muscles and your calf muscles and your hamstrings. And the only way you can make the tire go forward is using your glute max and your hip muscles. And as your glute max and hip muscles get stronger, your back will release, a sense of ease will come into your running, and you'll find running starts to become a very enjoyable flowing process. Start with the awesomizer. It's a checks and balances. You'll very quickly figure out where the asymmetries and the weaknesses and the breakdown points in your body are, and you can slowly strengthen and improve those. And then we go on to the holy trinity. Flow rope. Learn the timing and sequence of running. Open up your posterior chain and learn to move from the center out. Backward walking teaches you how to glide forward and get so much more out of your running with a great sense of connection and with a great sense of ease. It'll lower your heart rate, it'll decrease your blood lactate, and you'll move way more efficiently. And then we have tire walking, where you learn to confidently use your hips and become the authority of your own movement. And with these 4 powerful tools, you can totally transform how you perceive running and how you run. And my wish for you is to find trust and confidence, to let go of the fear of injuries, and to really experience a deep sense of connection and joy when you run.